Don't be shocked by this. There's no reason to be shocked by this. I predicted that we would see at least one, I think I said probably two, of the top three guys lose in a major upset over the next couple years. I predicted this, and I'm not claiming to be any kind of genius. Oh, that's all right, Hatman. We didn't think you were a genius anyway. Yeah, thanks for that, smart ass. Look, I'm not claiming to be a genius. Anybody could have predicted that one of the major guys, one of the top three, Wilder, Fury, and AJ, at least one, probably two, would lose in a major upset over the next couple years. Anyone could have predicted that if they'd been watching boxing for as long as I have, and if they'd been paying attention. Because there's a lot of guys who have been watching boxing a long time, but they don't pay attention for some reason. And what do I mean by that? Well, paying attention to the fact that history always repeats itself. I always bang on about boxing in the 1990s and that whole golden age of heavyweight boxing in the 90s. Well, I paid attention enough so that when this new era of heavyweight boxing started emerging, and all these young guys like the AJs and the Wilders and the Furies and, so on and so forth, when they started climbing up through the ranks, and I saw Vladimir Klitschko getting older, I was one of the few people saying that one of these new crop of heavyweights is going to beat Klitschko. At the time, Klitschko seemed invincible. He was wiping everybody. Nobody was even competitive with him at the time when I was making these videos and saying this. But I said, no, one of these new guys is going to knock Klitschko out, because I recognized that this seemed familiar. The way the heavyweight landscape looked at the time seemed familiar. I'd seen this before in the 1990s. Because during the Klitschko era, there was a shortage of contenders, a shortage of athletic, young, big, strong contenders. And towards the end of the Klitschko era, what did we have? We had all these athletic, young, big, strong contenders rising up through the ranks. And I said, there's no way that this old man is going to get through all of these guys. That's just not going to happen. These guys have got spirit. They've got heart. They've got ambition. Most of them have got punching power. He's not going to be able to get through all of these guys. One of them, I don't know which one, but one of them's going to get him. It ended up being Fury who got him. And I was also predicting, even before, or around that time anyway, I was predicting that this would be a new golden age of heavyweight boxing, and here we are. Again, I'm not trying to claim to be a genius. I'm just someone that's paying attention and recognizes the reoccurring history repeating itself. Because there are certain ingredients that you need for a golden age. In the 1990s, you had a bunch of fighters like Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Michael Moorer, and all these guys were talented, but they were also vulnerable. So when you've got a bunch of talented guys who were all vulnerable, well, that's a recipe for an unpredictable heavyweight history, an unpredictable heavyweight landscape, should I say. That's a scenario where you're going to get upsets. And that's what I always saw with this current crop of new heavyweights is, yeah, they're good, they're strong, but the gap between the elite and the contenders is nowhere near as wide in this era as it was during the Klitschko era, or the majority of the Klitschko era is nowhere near as wide. All these young guys are not as polished. They've got flaws. They've got issues, I mean, again, going back to the 90s, Holyfield nearly got knocked out by Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper was a journeyman. That was Evander Holyfield's second defense of his world heavyweight title. He nearly got knocked out by a journeyman in his second defense. So you're asking me what I mean by Holyfield being vulnerable. Well, that's it right there. Holyfield struggled with Larry Holmes, who was ancient at the time. Then he lost to Riddick Bowe. Then he regained the title from Bowe. Then he lost it. One defense into his second title reign to Michael Moorer. Then Michael Moorer got knocked out by George Foreman. And it was musical chairs. So if you just paid attention and recognized the elements that were around in the 1990s, you would have realized over the past, 4 years that those same elements were starting to reoccur in today's heavyweight division. And if you were paying attention, you would have known that the heavyweight division would end up like it is now, with major upsets happening. And don't for one second think that the AJ Ruiz upset is the only upset we're going to see. I predicted that all of the top guys, AJ, Fury, and Wilder, they're all going to lose. And it won't necessarily be to each other. Again, it don't take a genius to figure that out, right? It just takes somebody who's paying attention. There have been people for so long saying that a particular heavyweight is going to rule the division in a monolithic fashion. Some people are saying Fury's going to rule the division. And up until now, there were people saying AJ's going to rule the division. He's going to beat everybody. And there are still people now saying Wilder's going to rule the division. Nobody's going to beat him. He'll retire undefeated. I'll take that bet. I'm saying that none of them retire undefeated. None of them. Unless one of them like retires in the next couple years and never comes back. You know, picks their fights very carefully, then retires. If they're actually going out there and they're partaking in unifications and they're taking on mandatory challenges and tough fights, they're all going to lose, bro. I've been saying this for over a year, probably 2 years now. I've been saying that they're all going to lose. And that's what makes the heavyweight division so exciting. That's what makes it so compelling. That's what makes it so watchable. That's what makes it box office. The fact that all these guys are talented, most of them can punch, but they're all vulnerable too. I mean, hasn't Tyson Fury been dropped twice by Deontay Wilder, once by Nevin Pikic, once by Steve Cunningham? Nevin Pikic and Steve Cunningham are not notable punchers, and they both dropped the guy. Didn't Tyson Fury go life and death with John McDermott twice? Yes, it was a long time ago. But Tyson Fury is an erratic character. Tyson Fury is somebody who is a little unstable. Do you think he's going to continue to be stable for the rest of his boxing career? I don't. And I'm not wishing any bad upon him, but I'm just looking at his history. And when you've got somebody who's erratic like that, strange things can happen to his performances in the ring, and he can end up losing to somebody who you wouldn't expect him to lose to. Deontay Wilder is a tremendous puncher, one of the hardest punchers I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of boxing. But Deontay Wilder got dropped by some journeymen early in his career. Deontay Wilder has been outboxed in several fights. I mean, Wilder was behind on many people's scorecards against Artur Szpilka at the time of the knockout. This is not an invincible fighter. This is a guy with vulnerabilities. And even AJ, prior to the Andy Ruiz fight, the vulnerabilities were there for all to see. You know, I got a lot of heat from AJ fans in the wake of Wilder Brazil, because I was saying that if Wilder lands that right hand on AJ's chin, AJ is going to sleep. That's what's happening there. And I got a bunch of people popping up in my Facebook group saying, how can you say that? There's nothing wrong with AJ's chin. You know, I didn't say there was necessarily anything wrong with AJ's chin, but he definitely don't have an iron jaw, does he? Well, you didn't see him get wobbled by Dillian Whyte? Got dropped by Klitschko? Got stopped in the amateurs? You know, his defense is not watertight at all, AJ. Didn't you see the Povetkin fight? He got wobbled in the first round. He was getting hit by all kinds of shots from Povetkin. So all these guys are vulnerable, man. And it doesn't mean they're not good. No, they're all good. If any of these guys were around in a weaker era, they might be able to dominate in a Klitschko-esque fashion. But it just so happens, and fortunately for us boxing fans, it just so happens that these talented but vulnerable guys have all come around at the same time in a time when the heavyweight division is absolutely loaded with contenders. It's loaded with talent. Of course you get your naysayers, but you've always had your naysayers. You've always had your people who are stuck in the past with rose-tinted glasses, who will swear that everything today is inferior to how it used to be in yesteryear, including the heavyweight boxers. In fact, especially the heavyweight boxers. They're all inferior to the guys back in the days. Well, they were saying that in the 90s. They were dismissing Lewis and Bo and all these people, saying they were rubbish compared to the other fighters back in the days. Yeah, I mean, before Tyson came out of prison, they were saying, oh, we're just, you know, when Tyson was in prison, the entire press, particularly in the United States, the boxing press, All they ever used to write about is, oh, the heavyweight division is terrible. I can't wait till Tyson gets out of prison and sorts out this mess. That's literally what these people were writing for years while Mike Tyson was in prison. Disrespecting the Lewises and the Bowles and the Holyfields. Totally disrespecting them. And then when Tyson did come out of prison, the hype train began, and Tyson was a great fighter too. But they didn't realize that the ability gap between Mike Tyson and Holyfield and the other guys was nowhere near as big as they thought it was. And we found out on November 9th, 1996, when Holyfield and Tyson finally fought. And Holyfield put a beating on Tyson. Came back, had an immediate rematch. And Tyson basically quit in the rematch. He bit Holyfield to try and get himself out of the fight. But it's in retrospect that people realize the 90s was a great era. At the time, it was just full of critics. And if you speak to people even older than me who were around watching boxing in the 70s and the 60s, it was the same then. You had all these guys dismissing Muhammad Ali, saying, he would have never survived against Joe Louis. He would have never have beaten Rocky Marciano. These guys are pretenders these days. They ain't real fighters. They ain't like the Lewises and the Marcianos, the Jack Dempseys. They were the real heavyweight champions. These guys today are all jokers. That's how people were carrying on in the 70s too. But in retrospect, when all was said and done, then people look back in the 70s and say, actually, that was a great era. Because when Muhammad Ali first came on the scene, according to the people that were around at the time, Ali wasn't taken seriously. I remember even Harry Carpenter saying that when Ali first emerged on the scene as a heavyweight champion after he beat Liston, he wasn't taken seriously. People thought he was some kind of joke. And obviously there were rumors around both Liston fights that Liston had thrown the fight. Now, for the rematch, yeah, I can understand people thinking Liston threw the rematch. In fact, I suspect he threw the rematch. But the first fight, that was a legit win for Ali. Liston didn't throw that. In fact, there was the incident in one of those rounds in the Ali Liston first fight where Ali had some kind of substance in his eyes, substance that was irritating his eyes and preventing him from seeing. And what had happened is Liston had allegedly, one of his cornermen had put something on Liston's gloves so that when he hit Ali in the eye, it would irritate Ali's eyes. He wouldn't be able to see, So that is not the actions of somebody who has been paid to quit or paid to take a dive. No, that's the actions of somebody who's trying to hold on to his world titles. But anyway, Ali weren't taken seriously for a long time. And Ali was hated in the United States at the time because of it was a very different time back then, but maybe not as different as some would like to convince you that it is. But it was a different time to some extent in terms of, race relations or what have you. But yeah, heavyweight boxing, expect the unexpected. And in one of these kind of eras, you're going to see upsets. You're going to see crazy things happen. None of these guys are going to survive with their O intact. Not if they're taking part in competitive fights. Not if they're taking on the best. None of them are going to survive with their O. And either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, one of those guys is going to lose in an upset. Yeah, I already predicted that one of the top three would lose in some huge upset. And I said this several times, and I can't even count the number of people who are telling me there's no way, Hatman, there's no way that AJ is going to lose to somebody outside the top three. I just can't see it. And I had to make video after video telling you it doesn't matter what you can or cannot see. That is why they are upsets. See, I knew he was going to lose to somebody outside the top three. I didn't know who it was. I just knew in terms of the law of averages and the vulnerabilities that he has and the amount of danger men in the heavyweight division right now, the depth of talent, like it doesn't take a genius to work it out. It's obvious he's going to lose to somebody. It's just like it was in the 90s. Same for Tyson Fury and Wilder. One of them is going to lose too in a pretty big upset over the next couple years. You'll see. Anyway, this is going to be the last video of the day. So shout out to everybody for watching. Catch you on the next one. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week. covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.